There's the crawl space entrance. The crawl space is only 2 blocks high. That corner of the house, on the inside of the crawl space, I noticed water was coming in the crawl space and starting to pool pretty good. It only showed up around 2.5 to 3.5 inches. Anything over that, there was a heck of a lot of water coming into the crawl space. I'm not going to live here and tolerate that, so I had to do a lot of research on French drains and footer tile drains and all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of information, a lot of misinformation out there. And to me, from what I've seen and what I've researched, everybody's situation is probably going to be different than somebody else's. I don't think any two are alike unless you're living in some kind of a cookie cutter subdivision neighborhood where the train can be laid out pretty much identical to your next door neighbors. Now I let this water get higher than normal because I want to show you just how bad it can get. So I've got my 2 blocks and they're laying right on top of the footer, and bought that rubber coat number 57 and painted that on there. I like the way that come out. I put 2 coats on it, and we're going to pump this out and I'll show you what it looks like. I've got a sump pump at the end of that white hose. That's a garden hose. It's moving. It's just a cheap $100 sump pump, submersible. It's sitting down there on a 2x12 piece of wood, and through the garden hose it fills a 5-gallon bucket up every 1 minute. And to keep from coming in the house, I just pumped out for 2 minutes, so I've gotten 10 gallons out of it. But what I did before I got to this point is I dug 2 test holes. So my first test hole was on this side of the corner. That's where the water was coming in. Then I split the difference. This is 15 feet, by the way, from that corner to right here. I dug it down to the footer and then went 7 to 8 inches below the top of the footer. So I'm running about 7 to 8 inches, maybe 9 inches below the bottom of that second block that you're looking at. I dug a test hole here and I noticed a little bit more water. I dug one here and that had the most water coming in. I could even see it coming in. So that really caught me off guard. I was expecting the majority of the water to come in there, but in fact it's coming in here and flowing down that way. Now this wraps around the other side of the house. Now this yard drains, has got a pretty decent drain to it. It's not great, but it's got some. But from that point on, from this corner on, it does flow away pretty good. The flattest part is what's running into that house. Some on the surface, most of it subsurface. This is the first time I've seen any water for the last 2 months on this. We've had some pretty good rain since then. So I'm thinking now that the water is running here subsurface from my corner up there, that's catching all the water in the backyard clear back to the tree line. But I've been keeping this pumped out pretty good until I could get my sump pit installed. Water only entered the crawl space when it got to the bottom of that second block, so where the block meets the top of the footer. And I believe trying to seal that and get 100% sealed is probably next to impossible. So my sump's going to go right here. It's going to be a deep one. I think the total depth's going to be about 48 inches. And I'm going to go back with a Zoller M53 pump, and Apple Drain swears by them. But I'll show you how it looks just as soon as we pump her out here. You would think that would fill a 5-gallon bucket in less than 1 minute, but it don't. That's going to be the sump pit. That's a meter well, or a meter pit, whatever they want to call it. That's 18 inches inside diameter. I'll put this end down. It's going to be a little bit on the short side, so you can buy extensions. This is a 6-inch. The sump well itself is only 36 inches. Gives me 42. I think it's going to be on the short side. And then you can buy lids for it depending on your when you run your discharge line, depending on how you want to do it. Are you going to do it out through the side, or are you going to do it out the top? All yet to be determined too. Where I'm going to cut my hole, 4-inch hole. Actually it's a 4 3/4 inch hole for the pipe. But I think this is going to work out pretty good. Okay, here's what's going to go in it for the footer tile. 15 feet is what I need. These come in 10-foot lengths, got them at Lowe's. Well, she's been running about 20 minutes, so we're only talking 100 gallons so far. But what will happen is after I pump this out, we'll have a better idea how many gallons came out of it. But through the rest of the day, before dark, it's about 1 o'clock p.m. Before dark, I'll have to pump it out again, and then in the morning, it'll come through again. And that's all just through hydrostatic pressure between here and on out through there. On my test dig here on this corner of the house, I've got good drainage from here down. It's got to be following the foundation. It's got to be following the footer from up there. Okay, we shut her down. It ran about 50 minutes, so we're looking at about 250 gallons of water. Another thing to keep in mind is that very little of this was actually runoff. It was subsurface. And that subsurface water, it moves by hydrostatic pressure, and you have to realize that a single gallon of water weighs 8 1/3 pounds. It doesn't take long to add up to a considerable amount of weight pushing on this water. And this is heavy clay soil. This water is moving that fast through heavy clay soil. So we are talking a tremendous amount of pressure if you consider the backdrop. Right there, it's about 6 inches deep. Looks like the block is running about 16. I'm about another 16 to 17 deep. Starting to rain again. Just gives you an idea how much water's coming in. In 4 hours, in the actual trench itself, what you're looking at right there in the middle of the camera is about 6 inches deep. And she's just about 10 inches deep right here by the sump pump now. And I'm gonna pump that again. This is the next afternoon. We ended up with 4 inches and 2/10. And I've pumped it out a few times. One of my theories was by keeping this pumped out here and keeping the water below the top of the footer, I'm not going to have any water coming into my crawl space. Well, that worked. I've kept this low all day, and I dug more test holes. You can see them down through there. Just dug that one. Another one there, there, down on the end. So water wants to run down this side, down towards the highway. When you get out in the yard, the water's running down here. Any surface water will make its way through there. But the problem is, somewhere in this area, subsurface water is making its way here. These holes have been dug for hours. That water is a good 6 to 7 inches low there. Kind of matches that. That might be possibly lower there. Now let's move to the next one. Two in the middle are the highest. There's your 2 blocks. That water at the most is 2 inches below the bottom block. And now as we go on down to the last test hole, which was one of my originals, this hole actually remained dry for 2 months. But right now the ground is saturated. Farmers are way behind, and it's June 17th. So this water on this end is actually lower than the 2 test holes in the middle of the house. So it just tells me that I've got better drainage out here subsurface. Now to me, where it gets tricky is you come around this little end of the house. I dug another test hole just to see what the water's doing on this end, on a little better than a 4-inch rain. Now how much worse will they get if I get another 2 inches tonight and tomorrow? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. But to sum it up, I bet a hog in the ass, because I'm going to have to dig at least 30 more feet to lay footer tile. So I'm going to dig this up. Here's a short side here. I'm just getting started digging it out. I'll get her dug out and get those 2 rows of concrete block brushed off. They need to dry a little bit. And I'll brush on some of that blackjack liquid rubber number 57. Getting ready to put on the first coat of blackjack. We got the first coat of blackjack 57 on. I'm not endorsing the product. There has got to be a better product out there for this purpose. I just don't know what it is. It dries and cracks. If you get it too thick at all towards the bottom, it's going to dry and crack. So basically all I'm doing is trying to get a pretty good amount on my first 2 blocks, just to give the block a little bit of protection. At the top of the footer, it's not going to be too important. If the pipe does its job, water's not going to get up there anyway. It does look pretty decent after it dries. It's just hard to get the surface prepared and get it good and cleaned. You can't hardly get it cleaned enough, especially on an older house and an older set of blocks. If everything was brand new and dry, you could do a really good job on getting a good coat on it. Okay, we've got this one side of the house ready to go. There's the gravel I'm going with. It's kind of large. It's river gravel. It's clean. There's no fines in it. We'll take a closer look at that. But I'm getting ready now to put down 8-ounce geotextile fabric. We'll take a look at that too. This might be a little large for an ideal size. But if I went to the next size smaller, I thought there was too many fines in it. The next size larger was, of course, way too big. So we're going to go with this. This is a 6 feet by 50-foot roll, $107 delivered online. I'm going to split it right down the middle with a utility knife to do my wrapping. This is 8-ounce. I might have made a mistake. I wish I'd have got 6-ounce. This has got some thickness to it. but it does move water, but it's slow. What I'm trying to do is control the subsurface water. That tends to move slow, and it tends to move under hydrostatic pressure, so this still may be a good choice. Okay, here we cut her out. So we're basically going to use 3 feet, and hopefully we'll still get a wrap. There's the size of nails I'm using. I'll show you where them come into play. I'm doing this by myself. This just kind of helps hold it into the side of the ditch. Up against the house, we're just using some bricks that were actually all dug out of this backfill. I did a video on that to show you all the trash that come out of this backfill. Broken bottles. I didn't get any of them on film, but plenty of broken bottles and cans and sheet metal. There's the nails. Every few feet I just stuck a nail in there to hold it. It worked out pretty good. And I'm probably going to remove the nails. I just don't feel right about leaving them in there. So we'll dump some gravel in there now. Now I'm only going to go about 1 to 2 inches thick on my gravel. That's not a whole lot down in there, but that's all I'm going to go. Top of the footer is right where that brick is sitting. So my 4-inch pipe is going to be, I think it's going to be about 5 or 6 inches below it, if not 7. Looks more like 8 inches below it, which it isn't going to hurt anything. And this is the dry side of the house. The other side is the wet side. The only thing that concerns me now is that gravel is so coarse. I hope it doesn't deform my pipe. We'll get a section of that put in here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I don't think it will, because there's not a whole lot of weight on top of it. There's nothing driving on top of it. The only weight is a little bit of rock on top and some dirt. But dirt's going to be up to here. We'll get a section of pipe in there and see how it looks. Okay, we've got our pipe in there. It's ADS 4-inch corrugated and of course perforated. I still wish the gravel was a little bit smaller on average. It's kind of hard to work with. Just another look at it from lower down. It's got real fine slits in it. There's one there, there, and there. May not show up on camera, and they're just all over the place. I've got plenty of gravel, so I went ahead and put a layer on top. After I folded the fabric over, it didn't overlap a lot. I don't know if I can even show you right about here. That piece right there, it's overlapped over in here. The other one came up to about here. The other one's overlapped clear over here to the edge. Put the rocks down just mainly for weight. There's a lot of clay here. It might buy me some time on the dirt, sifting through it. That remains to be seen. And this 15-foot run here is going to be the NDS. That's the one with the styrofoam in it. It's kind of a neat looking product. It's a very expensive product compared to the ADS 4-inch corrugated. We're trying to get the digging finished out on this section. This is the 30-foot run here. There's a short run refinished. We got nearly half of that rubber coated with Blackjack 57. Okay, we've got this 30-foot section done. This is just a look from the other end. I cut my fabric off that 6-foot wide roll. I cut it about 4.5 to 5 feet because I didn't want to have to overlap any more than necessary. That's what she looks like with a little bit of gravel in the bottom. Whether it's enough or not, I don't know. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's what's going to be down there. Next we'll get the pipe on it. We'll try to get a little bit of gravel around it and on top of it before we wrap it. Okay, we got our 30-foot section of footer tile laid. You can get an idea of how much I got on top. Not really a whole lot. And then I fold it over, and I'll put a little bit more on top of that, but not too much more. And I didn't realize this, but on Blackjack liquid rubber number 57, I was talking to a guy at Lowe's, and he was telling me that he called, it's hard to find out the drying times on this. It's hard to find anything definite on Blackjack's website, especially between coats. So he said he called a manufacturer on backfill on this exact situation here, and they told him to wait 15 days before you backfill that. So with all the work involved, you don't want to jump the gun. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wait the 2 weeks or 15 days before I put my dirt right up against it. It does still feel very soft for days, 2, 3, 4, 5 days afterwards. And it's got the sun beating down on it several hours a day on this end. And you'll notice I left plenty of slop on this end. That's where the sump pit's going to go, or I want to be able to maneuver that tile enough to get it into the sump pit. Getting ready to put the NDS quick drain in here. I'm going to lay the black fabric in the bottom because I've read a lot of reports online. This is heavy clay and the clay is stopping up the NDS. But I'm not going to go with any gravel. That way, if it does fail, it should be a fairly easy dig out to tear it out and replace. I can find as many good reviews on NDS quick drain as I can bad, but I've done got it bought. I'm going to go ahead and use it. It's pretty hard fighting that fabric down in the ditch to get it to cooperate without driving nails up into the dirt on the sides of it. So I had this brainstorm, I don't get many, of wrapping the NDS quick drain with the fabric. I've got some overlap. Overlap's going to be on top from here to here. I'm going to lay the overlap on top because I'm not worried about water coming down from the top. My problem is water coming in. 80 to 90% of it is subsurface. On the end cap, I just left it. I did buy an end cap, but I didn't use it. Just double it over, put a big heavy duty zip tie on it. I'll cut that off. I'm going to get ready to lay it in the trench. Okay, there's the NDS quick drain, all wrapped up in its geotextile non-woven fabric. What I've got to do there is lay another small section over the top and overlap it on both sides before I start putting dirt right on top of it. I cut plenty because I don't know where I'm going to come out yet on my sump or how far in I'm going to go. So after I get that covered up with this heavy clay dirt, I'd be surprised if it floated out. Dirt's going to come clear up to here. There's quite a bit of dirt on top. But this is going to be a good test. This non-woven geotextile fabric, I believe this is 7 or 8 ounces. It is supposed to hold back clay, but we'll find out. And if not, in the future, if it does plug up, the only good thing I can say about this is that this run here is only 15 foot. Okay, she's ready to have dirt thrown on top of it. Got most of it in there. Certainly enough to keep it from floating out anyway. Okay, I got the sump down in there. Pretty level. Small layer of gravel in the bottom. No more than an inch. And on top of that, I'm putting in blocks. And then I hope I have enough to operate the pump. I think the Zoller M53s need 9 inches, but I'm not sure about that. Maybe 10. Today I got the holes cut in the sump pit and the footer tile inserted in it. I've got the extension off right now. There's the extension. That's a 12 inch. It'll slip right on top of that. I don't know if I've said this or not. I'm doing so many short video pieces, I tend to repeat myself, and I'll try to edit out all that I can. That is a 36 inch, 18 inch diameter casing for water meters, for water meter replacement or new construction water meters. That was bought at a meter supply house. They sell the extensions too. That extension was $57. The 36 inch by 18 inch casing, that's the tallest one I could get. I wanted a 48, but couldn't get it. That was it. And I think that was about $62 or $3 by itself. So if you knew exactly what you're going to do, you might want to look at getting a short culvert and just cutting it to your length. But I'm okay with this. Here's how that come out. That hole saw was 4 3/4 inch, by the way, and it cuts a perfect hole. You can see the fit on that 4 inch corrugated perforated pipe. Just a perfect fit. It's not any tighter, you might struggle to get it in, and any more, you're going to have a pretty big gap. And with a little bit of gravel in the bottom and that concrete block, which is about an inch thick, maybe an inch and a quarter, I'm at 13 inches. So that puts me in good shape whether I use the Zoller M53 or the M49 pump. They're both sitting at right at 13 inches. So that's going to put me in pretty good shape. I made a bad mistake of cutting that one a little bit too short. I wasn't happy with that, so I went ahead and took a small 6-inch piece, split it down the middle, overlapped it about as much as you can, jam it in there as far as you can, and then just let it spring back out. And once them corrugations mesh with the others on the original pipe, it'll never come out of there. Not ideal, but I made the mistake of cutting it too short. We're going to run the discharge. It's 1.5 inches, schedule 40 PVC. It's going to run out there about 60 feet to a small frog pond. And once it hits that, we'll walk over, I'll show you. It hits a swell that runs clear off the property. I'm just going to lay the pipe in here and stub it off because I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it here. This is my first rodeo on any footer tile, sump pumps, etc. Shoveling this way, you can standing on it, getting it down in there, taking out a chunk. You can move along pretty good, especially if the soil is a little bit damp. Then once it hits here, it's going to travel 60 feet, hit this, and that swell should show up. Okay, we've got our 1.5" discharge glued up and laid down into the ditch. The only thing different I've done this time, as far as gluing PVC and CPVC goes, is while I was at Lowe's, I gave Odie a call and told him what I was doing. I've always used the orange PVC cement, and she said on this straight PVC, this is just straight PVC pipe, 1.5". She said do not use the orange. She steered me to this Odie Rain or Shine. With the, I went ahead and bought the kit with the primer. Went ahead and capped it off till I get a little closer, and I'll be making a cut out here. I don't know where I'm going to go here exactly yet, so I just stubbed it off and I'll make another connection here. There's that glue, pretty blue. Getting ready to put some dirt back on top of it. I stepped off 60 feet. It ended up using 57 feet. Puts me to there. I'm gonna make another cut off about here and run and splice this into 4-inch corrugated. Bought a really nice lid with a sump. Put a gasket in it. $55 lid, but it's pretty quality. This charge is going to go right at the bottom of the black 12-inch extension. Got it adapted into a 4-inch perforated corrugated. The grade work still isn't done, but I want to show you down inside the sump pit. I've got the Zoller M53 down in here. The check valve is at the bottom. It's a Zoller check valve. 1.5 inch pipe threads. It screws right into the Zoller. And that 1.5" PVC, it's got a hose clamp that mounts right in top of it. And then on the discharge, going out, the 1.5" no hub. You'll read a lot of different things on the internet on this. If you ask 100 plumbers how they would do that, half of them may not agree with using a no hub fitting. They may want to use a PVC union fitting, and if this don't work, that's what I'm going to go to. But I guarantee you 50 out of 100 they're using the no hubs, especially with the shield on them. They call this a shield. It's a piece of stainless steel wrapped around it. You can see the clamps there. It's got that sticker on it, but that's stainless steel right in here. And you can torque these down to 60 pounds. That's pretty darn tight. I just get them almost as tight as I can with a 5/16 inch nut driver. What's going to be nice about it is that all I have to do is pull my lid off and check for leaks. If you got any questions, go ahead and ask on that. I put a silt fence up. It's 2 feet high. Got it off Amazon. 100 feet of it for $22 delivered. I had to add a few stakes in there. It comes with 11 and cut out the vents. I hope it keeps, when we get the hard rains this fall, I hope it keeps the mud off the brick. If it stays up there, it will. If the winds tear it down, I don't know how it's going to work out. We just got 2 inches today, and last week we had 1.5 inches. This is the first test of the new sump. She's taking her down. You can see the motion in there. That's the Zoller 53. We'll go check the discharge. Filling up nice. Discharge is here. Shooting out there, it's going to run out through here. When it gets high enough, it'll go down a nice swell and off the property. I'm going to be tickled to death with it. 60 feet of footer towel done by hand. There you can see the water coming in from the footer tiles. That's kind of cool. You see it rolling in. shut off. That's one thing that I'm not sure about this Zoller pump. It goes off at 4 inches and comes on at, I think, at 9. And I've only got an 18-inch diameter sump. And you can see how deep it is. It actually kicked back on. I think I'm going to get a whole lot of short cycles. She just cycled right there. So I'm going to have to live with a lot of short cycles. But it ain't like it does it all the time. This pump never operated for 3 months because we had the driest September and October like in the last 100 years. The water's already starting to slow down some. This one here is just coming from 15-foot run. That's coming from almost a 45-foot run. Very happy with it. It's a lot of work, and doing it all yourself, I done it for right around between $1,000 and $1,200. She just kicked on. You can almost see how fast it drops. Boom, she's dropped right there.